Tonight on Let It Rip.
There's got to be a lot of reason behind doing something like this at this time.
So why now? The feds raid former President Trump's house. They say they're looking for documents that may have been taken from the White House. Democrats say it's a fair probe. Trump supporters call it a witch hunt. We tackle the debate with the former special agent in charge of the FBI here in Detroit. But first,
they gave permission to people to look at machines. That's not illegal also.
He's running to be the state's top cop, but the current attorney general he's running against is raising questions about Matt DePerno's part in an alleged scheme to tamper with voting machines after the 2020 election. Matt DePerno himself joining the Let It Rip panel. Time now to Let It Rip. Joining us now, Matt DePerno, the Republican who wants your vote in the race for Attorney General. He says any involvement he had with voting machines after the election was above board and not against the law. Barb Byram is the Ingham County clerk who says DePerno used unauthorized access to examine those voting machines. Republican Christina Caramo is running for Michigan Secretary of State. She made news after serving as a poll challenger in Detroit during the 2020 election and claiming that she witnessed irregularities in the processing of absentee ballots. Former President Trump is throwing a fundraiser for her coming up next week. And Reverend Keon Payton is a community activist who ran for a seat in the Michigan House of Representatives back in 2018. The Reverend from the New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church joins us on the program. And as always, attorney and anchor Charlie Langton here with us on the radio or on TV. This is a man who is always on. So let's do it. Let's let it rip. And joining us now, as we say, is Mr. DePerno, and you are the man of the hour as we talk about these allegations from the current attorney general. The whole nation is talking about this story as she unveils what she's hoping will be a special prosecutor that will prosecute you for wrongdoings. Why do you say you did nothing wrong?
Well, first, what we're talking about here is Dana Nessel, who's the most corrupt attorney general in the history of Michigan. These allegations stem from a lawsuit I filed in Antrim County. It was a legal lawsuit. We challenged the constitutionality of a constitutional provision and a statute. And Dana Nessel was my opposing counsel. She had access to everything in that case. She knew exactly what I was doing. Now, 1 year and 4 months later, knowing that I'm beating her, knowing that I'm her political opponent, she's weaponized her office using taxpayer money to attack me. It's likely that she's used several $1 million of taxpayer money to come after me. These allegations.
Let's talk about the allegations. Let's talk about the allegations for those who aren't familiar. The question is this: were you present at a hotel room at any point with voting machines that you obtained or a group obtained, that you were in the room when they were examining these tabulators? Were you doing that at any point?
No, I was not present in a hotel room. But what I understand, based on the allegations made by Dana Nessel, is that clerks gave authorized access, Roop. And we are a home rule state, meaning local precinct clerks have autonomy as to how they run their elections and what they do with their equipment. They don't need permission from Jocelyn Benson. Every allegation I've seen lays out clearly that these clerks gave permission. There is no unauthorized access at all.
But is there running unauthorized tests on some of these machines that can cause damage in issue? Because that's what the allegation reads.
No, not at all. Now, let's be clear. In the Antrim County case, we actually showed and demonstrated to Dana Nessel that there were tabulators in Antrim County that had their security tape removed, were actually broken into, and were actually used in the election. What we're talking about here are tabulators that apparently people examined after the election was certified. And if you look at the statute, it only prohibits unauthorized use during the election and prior to the vote being certified. That allegation has never been made. And Dana Nessel's, what she's doing here is using her office, weaponizing it to attack a political opponent. She should be impeached for this action under 168.83. This is gross misconduct or is corrupt conduct in office. And people need to look at the actual issue of her using taxpayer dollars to go after an opponent. to boost her standing in this race.
Matthew, I want to talk to you a little bit more about potential damage to these machines. That's a part of this particular case in a moment. But let's get to Barb Byram, the Ingham County clerk, a little bit about what you're hearing from Matthew DePerno right now, saying that this is simply the weaponization of Dana Nessel's office. Any truth to that? And do you find it peculiar the timing of this special prosecution that's being called upon right before an election?
No, I certainly don't. I mean, the fact of the matter is the Attorney General, there was an investigation. The results came up. She saw that it was against Matt, so she immediately referred it for another prosecutor. That is the proper channels. What Matt is in fundraising off of is that he wants to throw her in jail. He keeps talking about throwing her in jail, the governor in jail, Secretary of State in jail. That is a misuse of power, and he's intending to do that. He is not denying having access to tabulators. I would ask that you ask him that question again, because he keeps going back to not being at the hotel room or the Airbnb. Was he in possession of these tabulators? And how did he get the tabulators? He is not a certified election professional. He is not supposed to be in possession of the tabulators or of any of the election systems. So we're focused on the tabulators, but we also need to note that on his website, he has the EMS system, which is the Dominion programming system there as well. How did he get all of this?
So Matt, when you hear that, forget where this could have happened. Were you in possession of any of these tabulators, and how and when?
Well, first, let's correct the record here. Dana Nessel started this investigation in February. It wasn't just until a couple days ago where she suddenly woke up with the light bulb over her head saying she's got a conflict of interest. She had that conflict back in February when she started using taxpayer dollars to investigate her opponent. That is corruption. That is the height of corruption.
But Matt, answer the question, though. I think the question is, did you have the tabulators? Yes or no?
Doesn't matter who had tabulators. What matters is I haven't seen one single allegation that alleges that anyone had tabulators without authorization, or that anyone had tabulators after the election prior to certification of the vote.
Let's just say that the question of whether it was authorized or not is not going to be agreed upon on this call, on this particular show. However, did you have access to a tabulator, and was it in your possession? Yes or no?
Clearly, there's a picture of a tabulator on my website. Clearly,
so
people who it wasn't in my possession, but clearly it was in the possession of expert witnesses who were qualified by the court to be expert witnesses in the case where Dana Nessel was opposing counsel. But again, it doesn't matter. Look at the statute clearly. And this is why Dana Nessel's been shopping this case to friendly prosecutors in Oakland County. Every one of them have declined her request because they've said, Dana, you should not weaponize your office against a political opponent, and everyone has turned her down. That's why Sunday night, right before our Republican county conventions that are happening tonight, Dana Nessel leaked confidential information to the press in order to create this story so that she could score political points. That's what she's doing. This is corruption at the height of her office. She is the most corrupt attorney general in the state or in the country.
I'm going to ask you one more time. It's on the website. It's on the website. But did you, at any point, have possession of these tabulators?
No, I've said I have never had possession of any tabulators. I have never talked to any precinct clerks about gaining possession to any tabulators. What I've said is
you would agree if you had possession of the tabulators that would be against the law, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. Absolutely not, Charlie. Look at the statute. It doesn't say that you can't have possession of a tabulator. What I said is we are a home rule state where local precincts and their clerks have autonomy in our state. The statute only prohibits use or possession of a tabulator if, number one, it is unauthorized, number two, it's after or during the election, and three, prior to certification of the vote.
I want to bring Christina Caramo into the mix here. Christina Caramo, you want to be the next Secretary of State in the state of Michigan. When you hear about people getting their hands on tabulators after an election. Some of these machines were apparently damaged. Does that bother you at all?
Well, the thing about it is I would need to assess the evidence as well for the claims being made, because there's a lot of wild accusations being tossed around without sufficient evidence to back it up. What I'm concerned about as running for Michigan's next Secretary of State is that we protect the voting rights of all Michiganders, ensuring that we have access to the ballot, ensuring that the process is secure, and ensuring that illegal ballots are not injected into the system. Our election system is broken. And to comment on Dana Nessel also claimed that I was committing a felony for complaining about Jocelyn Benson's corruption, and claimed that I could be criminally charged. And I agree with Matt's sentiments that Dana Nessel needs to be impeached. You cannot use your office to attack people from complaining about things they see in their government. I have a freedom of speech. I have a right to petition my government for a redress of grievances without being afraid that the Attorney General would charge me with a felony for simply issuing complaints. This is what's going on in our election system. So the premise is problematic. The issue is there isn't sufficient evidence that individuals are breaking the law to justify Dana Nessel trying to throw her political opponents in jail. This is totally unacceptable. And so I'm focused on the people of Michigan.
Pastor Peyton, you sit back all the time looking at what's best for the people who, of course, vote in the state of Michigan. As someone who is an adamant supporter of the rights of the people of the state, does anything bother you about what you're hearing?
Well, I certainly, first of all, thank you, Root, for this opportunity. I certainly do appreciate the comments that each of the panelists have shared tonight. I understand Christina's position. I understand the pain that Matt may feel feeling as though he's being personally attacked. But I also feel that the issues that Barb raised are very legitimate. Roop, I recently started a nonprofit called the Institute of Trauma and Economic Justice to bring greater awareness of the impact of trauma in our communities and its direct correlation to the escalation of violence and even the political discord which we see today, which unfortunately is unraveling our democracy. What we witnessed on January 6th was a severe traumatic episode for our nation. And I believe that we are all still trying to heal from it and move on. But in order for us to make that happen and to create a future reconciliation, we must confront that traumatic past with truth and transparency. And what I saw today during Attorney General Merrick Garland's press conference was what I thought was a step in the right direction. The laws of our land are written to create the boundaries that should protect us and keep us safe, and no one is above the law.
Do you feel, excuse me, Pastor, do you feel like you're getting that here in Michigan with the candidates running for office?
I'm sorry, was that question directed
Are
to
you
me?
getting truth and transparency? Keon Payton, are you getting that here in Michigan when you're listening to this situation with someone who's running for that job as Attorney General right now? Are you getting the truth and transparency you think voters deserve?
Well, I think we're getting a lot of political jargon and a lot of political rhetoric, and people are unfortunately moving to their political sides of their partisanship. And I feel that in order for us to really get to a place of transparency, we're going to have the facts to speak. And so, again, I just really appreciate the tone that Attorney General Merrick Garland said today. His last statement was that all Americans are entitled to the even-handed application of the law, the right to due process, and the presumption of innocence. And I feel in this matter, if there was anything done that was illegal on the part of Mr. DePerno, let the facts speak for themselves and let him have his day in court. And so I believe that that's the way that we get down to the facts. And that's the way we get down to the process of truth, transparency, and justice for all.
And everyone's looking for that. And next on Let It Rip, we're going to be talking about the raid at Mar-a-Lago. Former President Trump calls it a witch hunt, questioning the timing. Our panel weighs in next. Welcome back to Let It Rip. Former President Trump with some unwelcome visitors to his Florida home. Is this fueled by politics alone, or is there a reason for the raid? Andy Arena is the former special agent in charge of the FBI. He knows a thing or two about how the Bureau works and how orders and raids come down. Adam Ollier, the senator and also a candidate from the 12th Congressional District, he joins us for the discussion as well. Candidate for Secretary of State, Republican Christina Caramo, who is a huge fan and former President Trump, joins the second half. And Matt DePerno, who's running for Attorney General against Dana Nessel, joins us now as well. Barb Byram, Ingham County Clerk, with us as well. And of course, Charlie Langton, anchor and attorney. It's good to see all of you. Let's get right to it and let's let it rip talking about this raid. I'll start with you, Andy Arena. You heard Attorney General Merrick Garland today talking about what it is that he was doing, the decision that led him to get into this warrant. Let's talk a little bit about how this works. How much evidence do you think he had to have had in order to move forward with this?
Well, a search warrant, you have to have probable cause. You've got to have enough evidence to show that the crime was committed, evidence of that crime is at that location. And really key to it, Roop, is that the evidence is there really right now, right? You have to have fresh evidence, not stale, which, one of the points I've been making since the search warrant was executed was somebody told the FBI that's there right now, right? So this is not old evidence, old hearsay. So once you get that, you put the warrant together, you go to the federal judge or magistrate, and you get it authorized. Now, these are very sensitive cases, and my history, Roop, we talked about this a lot. I mean, here in Youngstown, Ohio, here in Detroit, I've worked some pretty sensitive, high-level cases. Something like this is going to go to the highest levels. Attorney General Merrick Garland admitted today he did sign off on this, which I knew he did. The director of the FBI signed off on this. So there's a lot of eyes on this. There's a lot of angst, there's a lot of wrestling back and forth. The FBI had to know they were going to get a lot of blowback over this. So when they took this to that magistrate, it had to be really tight, and I'm sure it was. What I heard today from the Attorney General is what I wanted to hear. I want to see that affidavit. Like all Americans, I have a lot of questions. The timing, the target, this certainly raises a lot of questions. That affidavit, that warrant, I think is going to really tell us a lot.
Unsealing that search warrant is something that could be in the works, but the Trump attorneys have a choice here to say, hey, we want to block this. Matt DePerno, let's bring you into the fold here. You have a lot in common here. If you talk to Mr. Trump and you talk to you right now, you'd both say, look, people are after us because of the timing and a potential win in an election. Is that the reason for this right now?
I think it absolutely is. What we're seeing right now in our country, whether it's the raid on President Trump, or the unlawful conduct of Dana Nessel. The persecution of your political enemies should terrify everyone, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or an independent. And I don't think we can stand by idly as we watched corrupt elected officials unlawfully use taxpayer dollars diverted to their campaigns, like Dana Nessel did, to spread lies about their opponents in order to boost their campaigns. And I tell you what, I did not see a strong and brave Merrick Garland today. I saw a very weak man. And I think if I was China right now, I would be saying, let's go invade Taiwan, because Merrick Garland is weak and Joe Biden is weak.
Matt, it may feel political, but that doesn't mean it is political.
Oh, Barb, you know it's political. You know it's political. You know it came out right before county conventions. You know it's political.
It's absolutely not.
She's known about this. She's known about this for a year and a half.
1 second, Matt. We're going to give you a chance to counter what you're hearing from Barb. But Barb, you're saying that it may feel political, but it isn't political. What do you mean by that?
Just because you feel that you're being attacked doesn't mean that you're being attacked because of politics. Republicans like Matt like to talk about the snowflakes, but what I have seen over the past week is him melting down and claiming that he's being attacked.
But Barb, the Trump lawyers have said, look, we've had a good relationship with the feds every time they've made a visit. This isn't the first time. It just wasn't a raid before. They've cooperated. They said, we've given them everything they wanted. And then all of a sudden you have this 90 days before midterms. It does bring the question to many people saying, is this performative by the FBI?
In order for the FBI to get a warrant, to execute a warrant, there have to be levels of proof. And I would refer to the attorneys that are better suited to answer this question than I am. But there has to be a judge signed the warrant for the FBI to go in and obtain documents or whatever they needed to obtain, which would have been listed on the warrant.
Well, let's talk about what happened. Senator Ollier, I mean, when you take a look at what happened with Hillary Clinton years ago, this very action was being celebrated by so many Republicans, and now it seems like it's being fought against. When you take a look at this, does the timing bring any sense of suspect to you as well?
I think when people talk about these moments, there's no convenient time to investigate the president or the former president, right? Like, there's no time where it's not convenient. And this, former President Trump has made it abundantly clear that he's always running for office. They want to say that they surrendered all their documents, but he's been subpoenaed for a variety of documents, and today pleaded the fifth on every single one of every question that could have been asked of him. His attorneys have obfuscated everything that they could. But this fundamentally comes down to the president clearly took documents from the White House that he was not supposed to, was given ample opportunities to return them, and hasn't. And we come to this point because Republicans, when it is a black man like me, are like, oh man, we back the blues, support the police, but when it is the FBI raiding their leader, they're like, oh no, defund the FBI. They're talking about injecting Taiwan, which has nothing to do with this situation. Either we have a system that's based on rules and laws, or we don't. And I think we do, which means that we have to follow the processes. Judges give them warrants, and the FBI search and investigate. You've got to trust them to run through the process. And Republicans have made it abundantly clear that they will not do that.
Well, Andy Arena, you have half the country right now. Let's just split it up evenly, even though it's probably a little bit lopsided, but a little close to half the country. Perhaps Republicans sitting back going, wait a minute, this FBI is not a bureau I can trust. Can the FBI still be trusted by the entire country?
100%. Listen, everybody on this panel, we're all speculating, right? We're using our experience and our knowledge and applying it to the fact. Anyone who says they know exactly what happened 100% is a fool or a liar, right? But a lot of fools and liars are beating the drum right now on the left and on the right. And that's dangerous. You saw what happened in Cincinnati, Ohio today. Armed man tried to gain entry to the FBI office to attack employees there. It's a dangerous time. This rhetoric has got to stop. It's very, very dangerous. The FBI is the front line. They're protecting us. They're protecting the Constitution. They're protecting our civil rights. They're protecting the national security of this country. We lose faith in them. We're in a bad spot.
Christina Caramo, you heard the lock her up chants from former President Trump, Republicans kind of echoing that. And now you have a similar investigation into the current president, and the FBI is wrong. Is that a double standard?
No, the problem is the double standard starts with Hunter Biden. What about the investigation into Joe Biden and his son? So, the Biden administration, Hunter Biden was engaging in corruption and using his father's office to help him gain money. The problem is in America, irrespective of political affiliation, as I go around the state of people, I didn't cut you off, so don't cut me off. Irrespective of political affiliation, whoever who I talk to, people are tired of not being served. They're tired of people using their office to enrich themselves, to empower themselves, and using the American people and the people of Michigan as political ping pongs to weaponize us and us to be angry at each other. We see like Nancy Pelosi's husband got a DUI. Did he ever get held accountable? We saw elected officials in Michigan on both sides of the aisle getting caught engaging in DUIs. But is anybody held accountable? That's what's happening. So what we see is that the FBI suddenly, let me back up for that. I believe there is compartmentalized corruption in the FBI. I'm not going to sit here and say that the FBI in general and FBI agents in general are terrible. I refuse to make that kind of statement. But there's overwhelming evidence from many things we have seen over the years. There is a two-tier justice system, and that our elected officials, many of them, will weaponize their power against their political opponents. Look at Dana Nessel. And we see, again, we have no faith in Merrick Garland. We have no faith in Joe Biden. Hunter Biden is a glaring black eye on the Biden administration. So any type of impropriety they want to point at other people, they need to look at themselves.
Charlie, go ahead.
I don't like politicians, Democrats and Republicans, using their political office through the courts. Better yet, using the courts to further their political agenda. Now, it's not going to happen in this situation this year, but if I become king of the world, I'm thinking about running for it, I would say that the offices of Attorney General, prosecutor, and sheriff should be nonpartisan. Why should they be Republican or Democrat? Let's take the partisans away from those on, like judges. Judges run, and the Supreme Court of Michigan, I know they're nominated by convention. I don't understand that system either. We should have independent people that have the ability to put people in jail. And once you start having the ability to take away your freedom through the legal process, it should not be politician, should not be political, because it doesn't have faith in the system like the FBI, like the Attorney General, like the prosecutor's office. We need people to respect the law. And I think we go a far way if we get rid of the politics.
We're going to get a chance for all of our panelists to give their final thoughts. That's coming up right after this break. Final thoughts. Let's go to Matt DePerno.
Like I said, Dana Nessel is corrupt. She continues to show this. Look at what she did in the Flint water scandal. The Michigan Supreme Court said she weaponized her office like an illegal star chamber to go after her political opponents. We see the exact same thing today. She won't stop until she's either impeached or voted out of office.
Andy Arena, I want to give you the last word to talk about the FBI and how we should frame this.
Like most Americans, Roop, I'm just disappointed in our politicians. They've torn us apart. They've made us angry. angry at one another. We've got to stop this. We've got to stop targeting our institutions like the FBI. We have to find some trust. We have to hold them accountable and be patient. The answers aren't going to come tomorrow. Be patient and the truth will come out.
That does it for this edition of Let It Rip.